first, the fires in New South Wales and Queensland, they have been very bad. 3 people dead, more than 150 homes destroyed, most in New South Wales. Firefighters injured too, including 2 in New South Wales today, hit by a falling tree. And the New South Wales government has declared a state of emergency as the fires approach Sydney. We'll talk about people who put in for this country, give praise to all those firefighters, many of them volunteers who are trying to keep their fellow Australians safe. In a few minutes, I'll get you the latest on what happened today and what we can expect tomorrow, which threatens to be very difficult. But I mentioned the firefighters putting themselves on the line. Well, now take a look at this. These are ideologues in a bushfire region protesting about global warming rather than helping the firefighters there or helping people hurt by those fires, and some of them disrupting those who are helping.
To that Prime Minister, we got ourselves a fight. It's no right or left, it's wrong and right. It's not what you think or what you believe. Climate change is real.
Along the same lines, then, there is this, a sick attempt by Greens MP Adam Bandt to blame these fires on global warming and on the Prime Minister himself.
This government has been repeatedly warned that unless we quit coal and cut pollution and get better prepared for the bushfire season, we will witness unprecedented catastrophe. And now it's happening. And the fire services are telling us that it might even get worse. This government has had every opportunity to minimise the risk of these catastrophic fires, and instead it has chosen to pour fuel on the fire. Michael McCormack and Scott Morrison bear some responsibility for what is happening at the moment because they have done everything in their power to make these kind of catastrophic bushfires more likely.
This is vicious, it is stupid, and it is wrong in so many ways. And let me count some of them before this kind of idiocy really takes off. Now, there are a lot of things that go into making a bad bushfire. How much fuel is on the ground? How dry is it? Are there winds? What's the humidity? Is the terrain helping the fire? How hot is it? And how many people have had their homes placed right in where you'd expect fires to eventually come? Global warming is not the big factor there. One factor there, though, is very big, and I'll come back to that. It's the one that the Greens won't discuss. Instead, they say these fires in November, global warming because it's unprecedented. Well, that's false. Of the 48 major bushfires in New South Wales between 1926 and 2006, 11 of those 48 occurred in October or even earlier. And our biggest known bushfire is Black Thursday, way back in 1851, burned almost a quarter of Victoria. Our deadliest was just 10 years ago, 173 dead. The Greens also claim global warming caused this drought that's made the fuel so dry. Well, again, not so, admits one of Australia's most prominent global warming scientists, Andy Pittman.
This may not be what you expect to hear, but as far as the climate scientists know, there is no link between climate change and drought. Now, that may not be what you read in the newspapers and sometimes hear commented, but there is no reason a priori why climate change should make the landscape more arid.
No, indeed. Now, Pittman got embarrassed when I started quoting that and said, global warming could have indirect effects on drought. But you heard what he said when he thought I wasn't listening. No direct link. And indeed, when you look at the rainfall for New South Wales over the past century, you will see this is a land of drought and flooding rains. And a rainfall over the last 3 decades is higher on average in New South Wales than the rainfall in the first half of last century. No clear global warming signal there. Now, yes, there has been a slight warming of the planet over the past 100 years, and some probably caused by man. But remember, while the Greens are exploiting the fires to preach about this apocalyptic global warming, in the United States this week, there was a very different reality: record cold.
Some 300 cities could set record lows, 20 to 30 degrees below normal, and that's over the next few days.
You see, there is such a thing as just plain weather. But no matter what happens with the weather, the Greens will always blame global warming, whether it's drought or floods, fires or cyclones.
There is no better time, actually, to be talking about how to save lives in the future. Look at Cyclone Yassi, look at the floods, now the fires in New South Wales. When are we going to decide that we accept the climate science?
But on the very day Queenslanders were preparing for Cyclone Debbie, your Resources Minister dropped a front-page story spruiking a new coal-fired power station in that very state, and you backed him in. Given the destruction that cyclones wreak upon our country, why do you push policies like burning more coal that will make cyclones more intense?
In fact, Bandt was completely wrong yet again. We're actually getting fewer cyclones, not more. You ask the Bureau of Meteorology, you ask the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. You see, when it comes to global warming science, Adam Bandt is a fool, or worse. One last point about Bandt blaming Scott Morrison personally for these. You know, really, it shames Australia to have a politician say something so stupid. Are we really meant to believe that in the months that Morrison has been Prime Minister, he could have changed the weather, stopped all the bushfires? Is Bandt absolutely crazy? Australia produces just 1.3% of the world's emissions of carbon dioxide. Morrison could ban every car and every plane, he could shut every factory, he could shut every coal-fired power station, and it still not make any noticeable difference to the climate and none to bushfires. Hear it from the chief scientist, who is himself a global warmist.
If we reduce the world's carbon emissions by 1.3%, what impact would that have on the changing climate of the world?
Virtually nothing.
So, what Adam Bandt and the Greens say is the answer to bushfires: just cut our emissions, just shut our industries, would in fact make zero difference to these fires. Zero. These people, these Greens, these Adam Bandts, are in fact exploiting tragic bushfires to push their fake scare and peddle their totally fake cure. They are snake oil salesmen, trying to profit from a tragedy when people are still crying. It's disgusting. And I think the Deputy Prime Minister called them out perfectly today.
We've had fires in Australia since time began. And what people need now is a little bit of sympathy, understanding and real assistance. They need help, they need shelter.
But why is it wrong to ask those questions?
Well, they don't need the ravings of some pure, enlightened and woke capital city greenies at this time when they're trying to save their homes, when in fact they're going out in many cases and saving other people's homes and leaving their own homes at risk.
Michael McCormack, well said.